So good afternoon, Liu He. Very nice to catch up with you and talk to you today. I met Liu for Digging Travel audience. I met Liu at an airline conference where he was speaking about, he was giving tips to airlines on how to upsell and cross-sell hotel and vacation packages. And maybe, Liu, before we start, just tell a little bit to our audience about your background and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in digital, or the digital industry for about 12 years now. My background's been a mixture of disciplines across agency and also some corporate roles as well. So ranging from online media, so paid media, to content, to marketing tech. I guess in case you couldn't tell by my accent, I'm Australian, and I've kind of made my way to London, as we all do at some point. Today's Walt. I'm a senior digital consultant here at Expedia Partner Solutions, or EPS, I guess, to make it easier later on. But basically what we do is, we provide technologies that allow our partners to access the Expedia inventory and the content. So we've got an API, and then there's template solutions. And put very simply, I work with a lot of these partners, and it's really about helping them maximize the value they get out of that technology and helping them grow their business, essentially.
So, if I understand correctly, Expedia Partner Solutions provide APIs and Expedia all hotel and other content to partners like airlines, so they can start quite quickly reselling and upselling all the content that Expedia has.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. And I see this is a trend lately, as airlines are trying to dig into ancillary revenue and expand other opportunities, that a lot of airlines are trying to start doing either flight plus hotel packaging websites or the vacation websites. Based on your experience working with airlines, what do you see currently? What do you think that airlines are doing wrong in this endeavor?
Yeah, look, I think the main thing that I start seeing, and I think this is one of the key themes across the presentation I did a while back, is really a lot of airlines, and to be fair, they're kind of stepping into this space, right? It's relatively new, but I think what they're seeing it as is almost a separate product. And I know we call ancillaries and so on, but realistically, I think when airlines start looking into, I guess, the future, right? And I think the main thing is that they're all turning into, how can I put it, almost OTAs with a flight, with a fleet of planes, right? And that's the key thing. They need to start integrating the ancillary product into their overall brand and starting to market this and actually invest in this area. So it's no longer just about selling flights and throwing in hotels, cars, activities. What it's about is actually focusing on that entire travel experience, right? And I think that is the absolute key piece, because some of the most successful partners I work with, they're the ones who really, focus on this. They actually don't just say we're selling hotels, by the way. It's actually they're investing marketing dollars, not just putting a little bit of spend in development. What they're actually doing is looking at paid search, in some cases above the line, so they put TV, they put radio ads out, talking about the fact that they do offer not just flights, but also hotels. And the last thing really there is actually, we talk a lot about loyalty, because a lot of these airlines, they have a loyalty product, and it's really for loyalty earn as well. So actually integrating that into hotels, for example, or cars, activities. All of this is what ties it all together.
Okay, no, I get your point, because I see in a lot of airlines, or even some, let's say, optimization cases that I did with airlines on, let's say, vacation or flight plus hotel packaging is like you said, it's another product. And what I think we as an airline people are initially inclined to do is just put it like flight plus hotel, or have it as a secondary somewhere, and there we are not satisfied when there is not enough friction and the conversion is not good. So, and like you said, the trend, the better ones are towards more to the full OTA experience, where you provide the complete package. So when we go into that, back to your presentation about the best practices, about how to actually do that, you are talking about also how airlines need to adjust and plan and optimize the content and communication through the whole customer journey. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I think it goes back to, it links very well with that last point, actually. So, the key message really is that for those airlines to actually experience significant growth, they need to start considering how they not just address one part of that journey, right, and the travel planning process. They look at the entire thing as one experience. So, understanding what that customer goes through to plan their travel and the intent at each stage. So what are they looking for, and what do they need from us, and being able to provide that. So in a nutshell, when you start looking at, I guess, the cycle that we talked about before, so dreaming, planning, booking, the whole sharing / experiencing, you start understanding what needs to be done at each of these stages, and finally, what's very key is again the integration of all of this through loyalty and marketing, right? So in the early stages, I think one thing that airlines do very, very well, we talk about dreaming, inspiring travel, right? And bringing this back and associating that travel with your brand and building awareness of the offering that you have. Airlines do this very, very well. Of course, it's focused on flights. So starting to expand this out to not just talk about getting to a destination, but actually what you can do there. And this plays into the next stage, which is really about planning. And one piece here is about how do you start using content to actually get traffic to your site, for example, and actually getting customers onto your site and reading through this and then monetizing this content, right? So building content as a simple example, destination guides. We often recommend this when we talk about how do you start building a travel brand, how do you start selling more in the ancillary space for airlines, is actually building that destination content and monetizing that content and personalizing that. And when we talk about monetizing in this context, it's not so much about advertising. It's about making sure that you are putting the right kind of merchandising there. You already understand that customer because when they're coming to you, let's say they've already purchased a flight, we should be using those signals to provide relevant offers, right? So start promoting the right things in those merchandising spaces. Always trying to use that content to take them into that next stage, which is more around booking. And the main thing here is really how do you make that experience very, very seamless when you get into the booking stage and making it as personal as possible. Putting the right nudges in so that we're starting to, as the customers, making their decisions, starting to help them drive towards a certain outcome. So we talk a lot about structured pricing, those urgency drivers, putting in reviews, and actually then giving them a bit of a step-by-step guide almost to saying, for example, pick your flight, pick your hotel. And I think one of the interesting things I see quite often in this space, at least in the dynamic packaging space, really is a lot of people are actually going out and saying, here is a hotel, pick the hotel, and here we're going to give you a set of standard flights. We'll just pick them for you. And I think this is it's an interesting gap because what we find is that actually drops conversion quite a bit because when you're automatically putting someone on a flight, that could be at 1 a.m. in the morning, for example, and with no clear way of changing that, not a great experience. So making sure that we're allowing that customer to go through that journey and helping them through that. At every point, I think what's very key is even if we talk about hotels, let's say, so standalone hotels, we still want to be cross-selling. We want to be cross-selling flights, showing them that next best offer. So if I book the hotel and the destination, I should be promoting transport options, whether it's car, train, flights. The next thing is potentially activities. So being able to link all the different products that you sell together to build an experience, an actual travel experience for that customer. When we talk about the experiencing or sharing side of things, I think this is fairly straightforward because if we are giving them a great experience through the other stages, then that's a great brand experience for them. But at the same time, what we should be encouraging them to do is provide us with feedback, right? Using that feedback or reviews, for example, so the hotel reviews are a very simple one that we talked about, to actually drive conversions in the previous stage to actually drive recommendations in the planning stage. And I think what's very key then at the very last point is around the integration of their loyalty programs, right? And then actually marketing this, investing in that marketing. Because at the end of the day, if you don't say anything about it, no one's going to know, right?
Yeah.
And it's not really, and when I talk about loyalty, it's not really just about giving away points or coupons. It's actually about how do you use these kind of tools to show value in your brand for that customer. And it's realistic about how you frame it. And I think one of my favorite examples is actually what the Hotels.com guys actually do. So when you start looking at secret prices, this again is more about playing on the fact that it's exclusive. They do coupons, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. But they also do the coffee card approach, which is buy 10 nights, you get one free. It's something to give that customer a bit of a goal, but it's also again playing back on the fact that it's something that's of value to them that they should be aiming towards, and that's absolutely key. And building a very strong value proposition around that, right? When you look at airlines, one of the key things around this is they do launch loyalty. We do a lot of loyalty programs with a lot of our partners, but the most successful ones are the ones who actually develop a value proposition around that loyalty program in conjunction with their mainline business, for example, right? So it's not just about earning points, it's about making sure that you can also burn those points, whether it's on hotel or ancillaries or even the flight side of things. And then, of course, marketing that, investing those dollars into it.
Okay, you said, or you talked about how airlines should, let's say, plan and communicate different things during the different stages, the planning stage, the inspiration stage, the booking, and then post-booking stages. And you also mentioned not only that, but then also to personalize a little bit this experience. This is one of the buzzwords, let's say personalization, or how to do the relevant content. And I think one interesting point you mentioned is also loyalty. So you have content, you have good offers, let's say flights plus hotels, plus you have the data and you have the loyalty data. Do you see using all this together then to provide the best relevant and personalized offers?
Yeah. So let me quickly play that back. What you're saying is bring in the data that we know from what the customers purchased from the loyalty side of it, and then using the loyalty data that we have. So what are they spending their loyalty points on, for example, or earning? Is that what you're trying to get at? And actually understanding what offers to give to a customer based on that?
Yes.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think one of the key things here is when you talk about all that content, all the, that we send out there, right, that is fed off the fact that we know what customers are looking for, right? What they're searching for, understanding, you can use external tools to do that sort of research. So, for example, looking at keyword research as a simple thing. So what people are searching for. The other side is understanding what they're searching for on your own site. So, we are going through millions of searches on our search widget, for example, whether it's Expedia, whether it's one of our partners, using that information and saving that and then giving that same, recommendation back to the customer. So they've searched for something, we should be presenting them with that and giving them deals based on previous searches. So remarketing back to people. From a loyalty perspective, I think one of the things that we do very well here is understanding what the customer is actually most interested in from that perspective. So we do a lot of campaigns around public points, for example. Basically, what kind of loyalty offer will actually drive the most conversion for us, and we use that information, and then we target a few customers here and there, depending on our partners and what they can do to actually launch these campaigns.
Okay. One thing, going back to this inspiration phase, yeah. Do you see cases with airlines that do this good? Because a lot of airlines, you said, they create content, they want to go into this inspire phase, not only provides us transportation flights, but if you don't have a relevant offer, which is a total package where you say, okay, we will not only transfer you to this destination, but we will provide you the total experience. So do you see, once you have that also with your marketing activities, with SEO, you can airlines can broaden their, let's say, marketing scope. So they can get higher into funnel and say, okay, we will, I don't know, in SEO, try to target vacation keywords, or in PPC marketing the same.
Yeah, so I think there's probably two different areas here. When we talk about content, a lot of the airlines, I think, do already create a lot of this, right? They have their in-flight magazines. I guess, let's call it a little more on the old school side of things. So they already do that very well. And what it's very focused on is two areas. The destination, of course, the activities that are there. And what's not being done is monetizing that from an ancillary perspective, right? Let's call it that. Because they will talk about destination, they will focus very heavily on how do we get there, and that's their core business, which is there. But what they're not really doing is saying, let's start offering packages, right? Let's start offering flights, hotel, cars, activities, and everything in between, right? So it's pretty rare that new airlines who are starting to do this space, but I think again, going back to the whole OTA piece, is OTAs do this very well because they don't own any of these. They don't own the flight itself. They don't own the hotel itself. So they're putting all of this together and selling it to you, obviously the commission. So the airlines they own the flight itself, right? So they already control that first part of that experience. And I think that not many of them do this extremely well. I think ultimately they have the offline content. Let's see how we can start using that online and starting to, I guess, start merchandising that kind of content, start monetizing that, and start using that to actually drive the purchase.
Okay, yeah, no, I understood. One of the cases that I did in the past was exactly this, where we were digitalizing the in-flight magazine from physical into the digital mean and put it into the first phase, not in the in-flight phase where it's targeted just the passengers, but in the digital space on the website where you can get all much sooner in the funnel and get all this demand and try to monetizing. So I think that's a very good point. Last thing, maybe I got on personalization, because I see your background is not only marketing but this marketing technologies, and this is what we try to examine when we do digital retailing for airlines. How good are their digital marketing and technology and data? How do you see marketing technology helping airlines and the trends, not only with airlines but with OTAs, to do all these activities that we talked about?
Yeah. So it's an interesting one, actually. So when we talk about marketing technology and personalization, the main thing is, airlines have so much data from the customers. By nature of their businesses, I think, they're much older than the OTAs. They've got a very, very loyal customer base. They've got their, especially the flagship ones where they've got their own loyalty programs, and they've had the same kind of customers rolling through quite consistently. So suddenly you have a very, very good view of that customer's travel habits. And the second thing is also, once they book a flight, for example, you suddenly know where they're going to go. You know their itinerary, basically the party size, all this information is there. So now the whole thing is, how do we start recommending the best kind of, for example, at least primarily what we do is around the best kind of hotels, right? Which hotels are you going to recommend? And we talk a lot about, based on the signals that you get from that booking. So for example, at a very simple level, you're booking a business class flight, you're spending probably a couple of £1,000, let's say. What we're probably going to not show you is hostels, right? Not hostels. We're going to be showing you higher end hotels, and potentially looking at, once you start getting in the rest of the data around, so when these customers start, for example, booking a hotel rate, what kind of activities are they booking through? So every time they make a booking, you are starting to profile that a little bit more. You start understanding what kind of activities they're doing. So if they're flying somewhere with, so it's two parents or two adults, two children. They're booking a family hotel. They might be booking one of the Disneyland resorts, right? Suddenly we know the kind of activities they're going to be interested in. They're not going to be going to, let's say, the latest, I don't know, the next rave or something like that, right? Unless the parents want to get away from the kids, that's a different thing. But we start understanding the kind of activities that they're going to be interested in. So it's really about how do we start using that information to continuously, I guess, learn and then start personalizing. And I think personalizing the offers that we give them, right? And I think one of the buzzwords that we hear a lot about now is machine learning. And this is actually a very interesting side of things. So a lot of the guys that I work with here have been working very, very hard on that side of things. So we talk about one of the API products that we have here. So right now we've got, as part of obviously we give you inventory technology and so on, right? But what's also included here is additional add-ons. So one of them is this called the recommendations API. So what it does is it does two key things at this point. One is similar hotels. So if we know that you're looking for a certain hotel, what are the other hotels that would most likely interest you, right? So this is extremely useful in cases when we talk about remarketing to customers who've dropped off. So you've looked at a hotel you haven't purchased. Let's give you similar hotels that may convert you. Cross-sell is the other piece. So starting to take in all that kind of data, understanding what the customer's been looking at potentially, what that behavior is, and giving them the right kind of hotels after they purchase a flight. And obviously the extension of this could be into activities and other transport as well. So I mean, this is probably where I think the most exciting opportunities sit really.
Yeah, I see the similar trends on the airline side, where they're trying for their own ancillaries. They try to use let's say, some machine learning or some other calculations to get the best propensity for certain product, and it of course makes sense then to continue with this on the cross-sell side. Okay, Liu, I think this was great. It was a great chat. I really liked some of the insights, especially from the airline side on the hotel, which is for us more unknown. And I think some of the advices and the recommendations will be very useful for airlines for better cross-selling and upselling of them. So thank you very much for the chat, and looking forward to hear from you in the future.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. That's great.
Okay, thank you.